The early spring sun cast long shadows across the ammunition depot as Specialist Sarah Mitchell adjusted her crisp uniform and checked her watch. Another routine guard shift, her least favorite duty assignment. Today's inventory included checking over 3,000 crates of various munitions, a task assigned to her not because of her qualifications but because no one else wanted it. Weapons check complete on Section Alpha 7, Sarah announced with practiced efficiency into her radio, receiving only static in response. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The ammunition depot, buried deep within the military base, stood as a forgotten corner of operations, a place where careers went to die, or so the saying went among enlisted personnel. Sarah had graduated at the top of her tactical communications class, mastering advanced signal techniques and encryption protocols that few others could comprehend. Yet here she was, counting bullets and cataloging grenades while her classmates served in specialized units or joined elite teams on critical missions. Among the endless rows of ammunition crates, Sarah moved with methodical precision, despite her disappointment. Her supervisor, Sergeant Maxwell, had made it clear this assignment was appropriate for her capabilities, a thinly veiled way of saying that women weren't suited for more demanding roles, regardless of their qualifications or test scores. The irony wasn't lost on her. She could decipher complex enemy communications in 7 languages, but apparently couldn't be trusted with anything more challenging than inventory management. The depot's fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a harsh glow across the concrete bunker as Sarah meticulously documented each crate's contents. Her mind wandered to the advanced tactics course she'd completed just months earlier, the only woman in a class of 32. She'd outperformed nearly everyone, earning recognition from the instructors, but apparently not enough to secure a meaningful assignment. "Mitchell, you've got visitors," called Corporal Jenkins from the security checkpoint. "Some brass and a team coming through for emergency resupply. Better look sharp." Sarah straightened her uniform, wondering which officer would be micromanaging the depot today. Ammunition requisitions normally came through digital channels. In-person visits from high-ranking personnel were rare. The heavy steel door swung open, revealing a group of men whose appearance immediately commanded attention. They weren't the typical staff officers Sarah had expected. These men carried themselves differently, with the quiet confidence that came only from extensive field experience. Their weathered faces and vigilant eyes spoke of countless operations and hard-earned wisdom. At their center stood Commander James Reeves, whose reputation preceded him throughout the military. One of the most decorated SEAL team leaders in recent history, Reeves had led some of the most dangerous extraction and intelligence operations of the past decade. Sarah had studied his tactical approaches during training, but never expected to meet the legend in person, especially not while counting ammunition boxes in this forgotten bunker. Reeves surveyed the depot with sharp eyes that missed nothing, his expression revealing neither approval nor disapproval. The men with him, clearly his SEAL team members, spread out with practiced efficiency, already identifying the supplies they needed. Their movements were economical, professional, leaving no doubt these were operators at the highest level of combat readiness. "Specialist." Reeves addressed Sarah directly, his voice carrying the natural authority of someone accustomed to command. "We need a specialized ammunition package prepared immediately. Operation classification Alpha Echo 3. Can you assist?" Sarah straightened to attention. "Yes, sir. I can prepare whatever you need." She moved toward the computer terminal to access the inventory system, fully aware that Alpha Echo 3 clearance was among the highest priority designations, typically reserved for immediate deployment operations. While Sarah worked at the terminal, Reeves spoke quietly with his team, discussing equipment specifications and load requirements. His men treated him with obvious respect, but there was a comfortable familiarity that spoke of shared dangers and mutual trust built over countless missions. "Sir, I've located all requested items," Sarah reported efficiently. "I'll need your authorization code to release the specialized munitions in Section Delta." Standard procedure required command-level approval for certain categories of advanced ammunition, particularly the kind favored by special operations teams. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Commander Reeves stepped forward to enter his code, studying Sarah with unexpected intensity. "Mitchell." "Sarah Mitchell?" he asked, his tone shifting slightly. "Communications specialist? Advanced encryption training at Fort Gordon last year?" Surprised that someone of his rank would know such details about a junior specialist assigned to ammunition duty. Sarah nodded cautiously. "Yes, sir. That's correct." Something changed in Reeves' expression, a flicker of recognition followed by what appeared to be confusion. He glanced down at her name tape again, then at her current assignment post, his brow furrowing slightly. "You're stationed here at the ammunition depot? Permanently?" "Yes, sir. For the past 4 months." Sarah replied, maintaining her professional demeanor despite her curiosity about his sudden interest. One of Reeves' team members, a chief petty officer with salt and pepper hair and the build of a professional heavyweight fighter, moved closer. "Mitchell, the same Mitchell from the Bahrain intercept?" he asked Reeves quietly, though not quietly enough that Sarah couldn't hear. Commander Reeves nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving Sarah. "I believe so." To Sarah, he asked, "Specialist Mitchell, what's your security clearance level?" "Top secret/SCI with Gamma access, sir," she answered, naming a clearance level significantly higher than what her current ammunition depot role required, a discrepancy that hadn't gone unnoticed by her peers or immediate supervisors, who often questioned why someone like her held such extensive clearance. The atmosphere in the room shifted perceptibly. The SEAL team members exchanged glances, their casual efficiency replaced by focused interest. Commander Reeves dismissed the other depot personnel with a polite but firm request for privacy, leaving only his team and Sarah in the secure area. "Specialist Mitchell, I need to understand something," Reeves said, once they were alone. "How does someone with your qualifications and clearance end up assigned to ammunition depot duty? This is typically a position for—" He paused, searching for diplomatic wording. "For underperformers or those being sidelined, sir." Sarah completed his thought frankly. "I've asked myself the same question. Official explanation is needs of the service. Unofficial explanation seems to be that certain command elements felt my skills would be underutilized in more demanding roles." She maintained a neutral expression, though the injustice of her situation burned beneath her professional exterior. Commander Reeves' expression darkened momentarily. "I see." He exchanged looks with his senior team members, a silent communication passing between them. "Specialist Mitchell, are you aware of Operation Sandstorm from 3 months ago? The extraction of intelligence assets from the northern Persian Gulf region?" Sarah shook her head. "No, sir. That operation would be well above my current need to know." "I'm not surprised," Reeves replied, his tone suggesting deep dissatisfaction with something beyond Sarah's knowledge. "Specialist, I'd like you to prepare our ammunition package as requested, but afterward, I need to speak with you privately. Is there a secure area where we can talk?" "Yes, sir. The depot commander's office is equipped with SCIF-level security measures. He's currently on leave for 2 weeks." Sarah's curiosity was thoroughly piqued, but she maintained her professional demeanor, focusing on preparing the specialized ammunition package the SEAL team had requested. As she worked, Sarah couldn't help noticing the changed atmosphere. The SEAL operators now watched her with a mixture of curiosity and what appeared to be respect, a stark contrast to how most military personnel treated someone assigned to ammunition depot duty. Their sudden interest made no sense, particularly coming from elite operators who typically had little interaction with support personnel. Sarah meticulously prepared their requested items, triple-checking each component against their specifications. Whatever mission these men were undertaking, they would have exactly what they needed, perfectly organized and ready for deployment. Her attention to detail and efficiency didn't go unnoticed. Several team members nodded approvingly as she worked. Once the ammunition package was prepared and signed for, Commander Reeves directed his team to continue their preparations elsewhere, leaving only himself and his senior chief, introduced as Senior Chief Peterson, to follow Sarah to the secure office area. The commander's office was modest but functional, with the expected security features of a SCIF, Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility. Sarah activated the security protocols, ensuring the room was properly secured before turning to face Reeves and Peterson. "Please sit, Specialist," Reeves said, gesturing to a chair as he took the one across from her. His demeanor had shifted from military formality to something more personal. "What I'm about to share with you is classified, but given your clearance level and your direct involvement, you have both the authorization and the need to know." Sarah sat carefully, maintaining her composure despite her growing confusion. "Direct involvement, sir. I don't understand." 3 months ago, Reeves began, my team was deployed to extract 3 high-value intelligence assets from a compromised position near the Persian Gulf. The operation was classified at the highest levels, with minimal personnel aware of details. Our team was inserted covertly and successfully located the assets, but during extraction we encountered significantly heavier resistance than intelligence had indicated. Senior Chief Peterson continued, "We were outnumbered, outgunned, and cut off from our primary extraction point. Standard communications were compromised. Someone had cracked our encryption protocols. We were essentially dark, unable to call for support or communicate our position without exposing ourselves further." Commander Reeves leaned forward, his eyes locked on Sarah's. And then something extraordinary happened. A transmission came through on an emergency frequency, a frequency that shouldn't have been monitored by anyone except the highest levels of command. The transmission contained precise enemy positions, strength assessments, and most importantly, a secure extraction route that wasn't on any of our maps. "The information was flawless," Peterson added. "Encrypted using a method so complex that even our communications specialist couldn't identify its origin. But the intelligence was accurate down to the number of enemy combatants and their exact positions. It saved our lives and the lives of the assets we were extracting." Sarah's mind raced, connecting dots that suddenly formed a clear picture. 3 months ago, she had been working night shift at the communications center before her reassignment to the ammunition depot. On that particular night, she had detected anomalous encrypted communications that indicated a compromised operation. Using encryption techniques she had developed herself, she had transmitted critical intelligence through channels that couldn't be monitored by hostile forces. "When we returned from the operation," Reeves continued, "I requested information on the source of that intelligence. I was told the matter was classified, and that I should focus on the success of the mission rather than its supporting elements. That answer wasn't acceptable to me or my team. Those transmissions saved 16 lives that night, my entire team and the 3 assets." "It took weeks of pushing through bureaucratic roadblocks," Peterson said, "but we finally tracked the transmission to the communications center here. And from there, to you, Specialist Mitchell." Commander Reeves studied Sarah carefully. "You intercepted enemy communications, recognized the threat to our team, developed a secure transmission method on the fly, and delivered actionable intelligence that saved our operation. Then you went back to your regular duties without seeking recognition or credit. And somehow, you ended up assigned to ammunition depot duty instead of being promoted." Sarah maintained her composure, though her heart raced at the confirmation that her actions had indeed made a difference. "Sir, I was monitoring communications as part of my regular duties. When I detected the encrypted enemy transmissions and realized they were tracking an American team, protocols required me to act. I couldn't use standard channels without risking further compromise, so I developed an alternative encryption method. An encryption method that our best communications experts still haven't fully decoded," Peterson noted with undisguised admiration. "You essentially created a new communications protocol in minutes, under pressure, that was sophisticated enough to evade enemy detection yet could be understood by our team. I believed your team would recognize the mathematical structure," Sarah explained modestly. "It was based on Fibonacci sequences combined with geographic coordinates, complex enough to appear as noise to anyone intercepting it, but recognizable to trained operators if they were looking for patterns." Commander Reeves shook his head slowly, a mixture of admiration and disbelief in his expression. "And for this extraordinary act, you were reassigned to ammunition depot duty. I'd like to understand why." Sarah hesitated, weighing how much to reveal about the politics and prejudices that had shaped her reassignment. The official explanation was that my actions, while well-intentioned, violated communication protocols. I was told that creating unauthorized encryption methods represented a security risk, regardless of the outcome. And the unofficial explanation? Reeves pressed, clearly seeing beyond her diplomatic response. Unofficially, sir, I was told by my immediate superior that I had overstepped my position. That communications specialists, particularly female specialists, should focus on monitoring and reporting through established channels rather than taking initiative that might interfere with operations managed by more qualified personnel. Sarah kept her tone neutral, though the memory of that conversation still stung. Senior Chief Peterson's expression darkened. More qualified personnel? You mean the intelligence officers who missed the enemy's communication patterns in the first place? The same ones who would have left us walking into an ambush if you hadn't intervened? That would be my understanding, yes, Sarah replied carefully. Commander Reeves stood abruptly, pacing the small office with controlled energy that hinted at his barely contained anger. This is completely unacceptable. Your actions saved my entire team and 3 irreplaceable intelligence assets. The value of the intelligence those assets have provided since their extraction has been. He paused, seeming to check himself from revealing classified details. Beyond calculation. He turned to face Sarah directly. Specialist Mitchell, I need to understand something. When you recognized the threat to our team and realized standard protocols wouldn't work, what made you develop an entirely new encryption method rather than simply reporting up the chain of command? Sarah considered her answer carefully. This question cut to the heart of the decision that had ultimately derailed her career trajectory. Sir, by the time I identified the threat pattern, your team was already in the compromise zone. Reporting through standard channels would have triggered a review process that would have taken hours at minimum. Based on enemy movement patterns, you had approximately 27 minutes before encountering their forward positions. So you made a judgment call, Peterson stated. Yes, Senior Chief. I made a judgment call that the lives of American operators outweighed adherence to communications protocols designed for standard situations, rather than immediate life-threatening scenarios. Sarah met his gaze steadily, standing by her decision despite its professional consequences. Commander Reeves stopped pacing, a look of decision settling across his features. Senior Chief, please inform the team we'll be delayed by 1 hour. Then contact Command and tell them I'm invoking Directive 7 Alpha for immediate personnel reassignment. Understood, Commander, Peterson replied, a smile spreading across his weathered face as he left the office. Sarah looked at Reeves questioningly, unfamiliar with the directive he had mentioned. Directive 7 Alpha, Reeves explained, allows special operations commanders to requisition personnel with specific skills for immediate mission-critical needs, bypassing standard assignment protocols. He smiled slightly at Sarah's surprised expression. In other words, Specialist Mitchell, I'm getting you out of this ammunition depot effective immediately. Sir, I appreciate the thought, but my commanding officer has been misusing a valuable asset, Reeves interrupted firmly. You have a unique combination of skills that are currently being wasted counting bullets. I need a communications specialist who can think creatively under pressure for our upcoming operation. Someone who understands that sometimes saving lives requires breaking protocols. The realization that her career might suddenly change direction after months of professional purgatory left Sarah momentarily speechless. What would this reassignment involve, sir? Quote, initially, you'll support our upcoming operation from the Tactical Operations Center. Your primary responsibility will be monitoring and securing our communications channels, with full authority to develop whatever protocols you deem necessary to keep our team safe. Reeves's expression became serious. After that, assuming you're interested, we'll discuss permanent reassignment to our support team. The processing center buzzed with quiet efficiency as Commander Reeves escorted Sarah through security checkpoints toward the Tactical Operations Wing. Personnel glanced their way with poorly concealed curiosity. The sight of an ammunition depot specialist walking alongside one of the military's most decorated SEAL commanders was unusual enough to draw attention. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Your credentials have been temporarily updated, Reeves explained, as they approached a heavily secured door marked with classified operation indicators. Full clearance will take effect within 24 hours, but you're authorized for this area effective immediately. The biometric scanner recognized Commander Reeves instantly, while Sarah's newly activated credentials required secondary verification. Once inside, Sarah found herself in a state-of-the-art command center that made her previous communications posting look primitive by comparison. Multiple workstations displayed real-time intelligence from various regions, while operators coordinated information with quiet professionalism. This was the nerve center from which high-risk operations were monitored and supported, a place where seconds of delay could mean the difference between success and catastrophic failure. "Team, attention," Reeves called, his voice cutting through the ambient noise of the operations center. "This is Specialist Sarah Mitchell. She'll be taking over as our primary communications security lead for Operation Sandstorm 2, effective immediately." He gestured toward a workstation equipped with advanced communications monitoring equipment. "Mitchell's previous work saved our team during the first phase of this operation. Some of you may have heard rumors about mysterious intel that kept us alive 3 months ago. She's the source." The room's atmosphere shifted perceptibly. Operators who had barely glanced at Sarah upon her entrance now studied her with renewed interest. Among Special Operations personnel, results mattered far more than rank or appearance, and Sarah had apparently earned significant credibility without even knowing it. Lieutenant Commander Ellis, a communications officer with salt-and-pepper hair and the intense focus of someone who lived and breathed signal intelligence, approached with undisguised curiosity. "You're the one who created the Fibonacci sequence encryption during Sandstorm? That was brilliant work. We've been trying to reverse engineer your methodology for weeks." Sarah blinked in surprise. "You've been studying my transmission? I thought it would have been dismissed as a one-off emergency protocol." Ellis shook his head. "Dismissed? Quite the opposite. When something works that effectively under those conditions, we don't dismiss it. We try to understand it. The way you layer geographic coordinates within the mathematical sequence was inspired. It appeared as random noise to anyone intercepting it, but contained actionable intelligence for the operators on the ground." "It was a calculated risk," Sarah admitted. "I wasn't sure Commander Reeves' team would recognize the pattern structure quickly enough to act on it." "Reeves may not look it, but he was a mathematics major before joining the Navy," Ellis said with a slight smile. "His team decoded your transmission in under 3 minutes, enough time to adjust their approach and avoid the ambush. Reeves rejoined them, accompanied by Senior Chief Peterson and 2 other team members." "Mitchell, we're moving into the operational briefing in 5 minutes. Ellis will get you up to speed on our current communications protocols. I want your assessment of potential vulnerabilities before we finalize the operation plan." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As Reeves moved away to coordinate with other team elements, Ellis guided Sarah to her assigned workstation. "Fair warning," he said quietly. "Your reassignment has ruffled some feathers. Captain Hammond from Intelligence Division isn't happy about losing control of communication security to someone outside his command structure, especially someone who was counting bullets yesterday." "I'm not looking to step on anyone's toes," Sarah replied, quickly familiarizing herself with the workstation setup. "I just want to do the job I was trained for." "That's exactly what you should focus on," Ellis agreed. "In this unit, results speak for themselves. Prove your value on this operation, and the political noise will fade quickly." The briefing room was secured to the highest classification level, with only essential personnel present. Maps and intelligence data covered digital displays, showing a region Sarah immediately recognized from her previous intercept work. Commander Reeves stood at the front, his demeanor shifting from the approachable officer who had retrieved her from the ammunition depot to the focused mission commander preparing for high-risk operations. Operation Sandstorm 2, Reeves began without preamble, is the second phase of our ongoing intelligence-gathering mission in the Persian Gulf region. 3 months ago, we extracted 3 key assets from hostile territory. Those assets have provided critical information leading us to believe that a new weapons system is being prepared for deployment against American interests in the region. He advanced the display to show satellite imagery of a coastal installation. Our mission is to infiltrate this facility, confirm the presence of the weapon system, place surveillance devices to monitor activities, and extract without detection. Time window is narrow, approximately 4 hours between security shift changes. As the briefing continued, Sarah studied the communications aspects with growing concern. The facility was located in an area with extensive electronic surveillance and signal monitoring capabilities. Standard military communications protocols would be detected almost immediately, potentially compromising the team before they even reached their objective. When Reeves opened the floor for questions and assessments, Sarah hesitated only briefly before raising her hand. All eyes turned to her, the newcomer questioning an operation plan that had likely been weeks in development. Specialist Mitchell, Reeves acknowledged, his tone encouraging rather than dismissive. "Sir, the communications approach outlined in the plan uses our standard encrypted channels with frequency hopping to avoid detection." Sarah began, choosing her words carefully. "Based on my analysis of this region's signal intelligence capabilities, I believe these protocols will be insufficient. The enemy has demonstrated increasingly sophisticated signal interception abilities, particularly in this coastal region." Captain Hammond, a stern-faced intelligence officer with precisely 27 years of service according to the ribbons on his chest, frowned visibly. "Our encryption protocols are state-of-the-art, specialist. They've been tested extensively in similar environments." "With respect, Captain," Sarah continued, undeterred by his obvious skepticism. 3 months ago, those same protocols were compromised during Operation Sandstorm 1, nearly resulting in the loss of Commander Reeves' entire team. The enemy's signal intelligence capabilities have advanced significantly since then, based on communications I monitored before my reassignment. The room fell silent as everyone processed her direct challenge to the operation's communications security plan. Captain Hammond's expression darkened further, but before he could respond, Commander Reeves intervened. "Mitchell, you have an alternative suggestion." His tone remained neutral, but his eyes communicated clear interest in her assessment. "Yes, sir. Instead of relying on our standard protocols, I propose developing a mission-specific communications framework using unrelated commercial signals as carriers. By embedding our transmissions within routine civilian communications traffic, we can create a system that appears as background noise to monitoring stations while maintaining secure communication with the team. That approach would require complete reconfiguration of our communications equipment," Captain Hammond objected. "We deploy in 18 hours. There's no time to develop and test an entirely new protocol." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "Sir, I can have a working prototype ready for testing in 3 hours, with full implementation in 12. The hardware requirements are minimal, primarily software modifications to existing equipment." Commander Reeves studied her for a long moment, then turned to Hammond. "Captain, I believe Specialist Mitchell has earned the right to develop this alternative. Her previous work in this exact region kept my team alive when standard protocols failed. Ellis, work with Mitchell to allocate whatever resources she needs. If her system tests successfully, we'll implement it for the operation." Hammond's displeasure was evident, but he didn't openly contradict Reeves' decision. The remainder of the briefing continued, focusing on infiltration approaches and intelligence objectives. Throughout, Sarah took detailed notes, already mentally outlining the communication system she would need to develop under immense time pressure. As the briefing concluded, Senior Chief Peterson approached Sarah while others filed out. "Don't mind Hammond," he said quietly. "He's good at his job, but change makes him nervous, especially when it comes from unexpected sources." "I understand," Sarah replied. "I'm not trying to undermine established protocols. I just want to give the team the best possible chance of completing their mission safely." "That's exactly the right priority," Peterson affirmed. "Hammond's concerned about procedures and chain of command. Those matter, but not as much as bringing everyone home alive." He glanced toward Reeves, who was engaged in discussion with the tactical team leaders. "The commander trusts your judgment. That's worth more than any official endorsement in this unit." The next 12 hours tested Sarah's capabilities to their absolute limits. Working with Lieutenant Commander Ellis and 2 communications specialists, she designed a communications framework that disguised tactical transmissions within the constant stream of commercial satellite signals crossing the region. The approach was unorthodox, combining techniques from her advanced encryption training with practical adaptations based on her understanding of the enemy's monitoring capabilities. "This is either brilliant or insane," Ellis commented as they tested the system in the early hours of the morning. "Possibly both. Sometimes the line between those is remarkably thin," Sarah replied, making final adjustments to the algorithm. "The beauty of this approach is its complete departure from military communication patterns. We're not just encrypting our signals, we're making them disappear into background noise that no one would think to examine closely." At the 4-hour mark, they had a working prototype ready for testing. Commander Reeves and Senior Chief Peterson observed as Sarah demonstrated the system's capabilities, successfully transmitting complex tactical information that appeared as nothing more than routine commercial satellite traffic to monitoring systems. "Can your team adapt to this new protocol in the time we have left?" Reeves asked, clearly impressed by the demonstration but concerned about implementation. "We'll need 2 hours of practice with the actual equipment," Sarah acknowledged. "The interface is intuitive by design, but operators will need to understand the timing requirements for transmission security." Reeves nodded decisively. "Make it happen. Full team briefing on the new protocol in 1 hour." As word spread about the communications overhaul, reactions among the operations team were mixed. Some veterans expressed skepticism about abandoning proven methods so close to deployment, while others, particularly those who had experienced the near disaster of Sandstorm I, welcomed the innovative approach. Captain Hammond made one final attempt to reassert control over the communications aspect of the mission, approaching Commander Reeves while Sarah was instructing team members on the new protocols. "Commander, I must formally register my concern about implementing an untested communications system for this operation," Hammond stated, loud enough for others nearby to hear. "Specialist Mitchell is inexperienced with field operations of this nature. The risk of communications failure could jeopardize both the mission objectives and personnel safety." Reeves turned to face him directly, his expression revealing none of the irritation he must have felt at this public challenge. "Captain, your concern is noted. However, I'll remind you that Mitchell's inexperienced approach saved my entire team 3 months ago, when our standard protocols were compromised. I trust her assessment of the current threat environment." "Sir, with respect, one successful improvisation doesn't qualify." "Captain," Reeves interrupted firmly, "this isn't a debate. The decision has been made. If you have specific technical concerns about the new system, address them directly with Specialist Mitchell, so they can be resolved before deployment." Hammond's jaw tightened, but he recognized the finality in Reeves' tone. With a curt nod, he withdrew, leaving the implementation to continue without further interference. As deployment time approached, Sarah found herself in the unusual position of transitioning from outsider to essential team member in less than 24 hours. The same operators who might have overlooked her completely a day earlier now sought her expertise, asking detailed questions about the communications system that would keep them connected during their high-risk mission. "You've pulled off something remarkable here," Ellis told her as they made final system checks. "From ammunition depot to redesigning our communications security approach in less than a day. That's got to be some kind of record." Sarah smiled tiredly, running on caffeine and determination after working through the night. "I'm just glad to be doing work that matters again." "About that," Ellis said, lowering his voice, "Reeves has been in meetings with command all morning. Word is he's pushing for your permanent reassignment to our unit, despite considerable resistance from certain quarters." "Resistance?" Sarah asked, though she could guess the source. "Hammond isn't the only one uncomfortable with rapid changes to established hierarchies," Ellis explained. "There are also questions about how you ended up at the ammunition depot in the first place, given your qualifications. Reeves is asking uncomfortable questions about whether gender bias played a role in your reassignment after Sandstorm 1. Before Sarah could respond, Commander Reeves entered the operations center, now dressed in full tactical gear for the upcoming mission. The room immediately fell silent as he approached the main communications station, where Sarah and Ellis were completing final checks. "Systems are ready, Commander," Sarah reported professionally. "All equipment has been tested, and operators are fully briefed on the new protocols." Reeves nodded, his focus already shifting to mission mode. "Outstanding work, Mitchell. You'll be our primary communications coordinator during the operation, working directly with Ellis to maintain our secure connection. If anything looks suspicious, Any hint that our transmissions are being monitored or intercepted? I want to know immediately." "Understood, sir." The responsibility was enormous. She would be the lifeline connecting the team to critical support during a high-risk operation in hostile territory. After months of counting ammunition boxes, Sarah was suddenly holding the communications security of an entire special operations team in her hands. As the deployment hour approached, the operations center transformed into a focused hive of activity. Intelligence analysts made final updates to mission parameters. Medical personnel prepared emergency response protocols, and communications specialists, now under Sarah's direction, established the secure channels that would keep the team connected through their insertion, operation, and extraction. Commander Reeves gathered his team for final instructions before departure. Though Sarah wasn't part of the deploying unit, he specifically included her in this briefing, positioning her prominently among the support team leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen, Operation Sandstorm 2 represents a critical intelligence gathering mission with significant implications for regional security," Reeves began, his voice carrying the quiet authority that inspired confidence rather than anxiety. "Each of you knows your role and the importance of perfect execution." He paused, making eye contact with key team members. 3 months ago, we survived a compromised operation because someone recognized a threat and had the courage to act outside established protocols. Today, we're implementing new communications security measures developed by that same individual, Specialist Mitchell. All eyes turned briefly towards Sarah, who maintained her professional composure despite the unexpected recognition. "This mission will succeed because we adapt, innovate, and recognize expertise regardless of rank or position," Reeves continued. "Trust your training, trust your teammates, and remember that sometimes the most valuable solutions come from unexpected sources." With final instructions delivered, the tactical team moved toward the deployment area. Before joining them, Reeves approached Sarah one last time. "Mitchell, I'm counting on you to keep our communications secure. If anything doesn't feel right, trust your instincts and make whatever adjustments you deem necessary. No authorization required. Clear?" Quote, "Crystal clear, sir," Sarah replied, understanding the extraordinary authority she was being granted. In an environment where chain of command was sacred, Reeves was giving her autonomous decision-making power over a critical mission component. As the tactical team departed for their insertion point, Sarah took her position at the communications console, ready to coordinate the most complex operation of her career. The ammunition depot seemed a lifetime away, though it had been her reality just 36 hours earlier. Ellis settled into the station beside her, monitoring parallel communications channels. "Ready for this?" he asked quietly. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself as multiple screens displayed the beginning stages of the operation. "Absolutely," she replied, with the confidence of someone who had finally found their proper place. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." The Tactical Operations Center hummed with focused energy as Operation Sandstorm 2 went live. Multiple screens displayed satellite imagery, team positioning data, and environmental conditions, while Sarah's custom communications system monitored the encrypted channels connecting the operators to their support team. Every person in the room understood the stakes. Lives and critical intelligence hung in the balance. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Sandstorm team approaching insertion point, Ellis announced, his voice carrying the practiced calm of someone who had coordinated dozens of similar operations. "Communications check complete. All channels secure." Sarah monitored her station with unwavering focus, watching for any anomalies that might indicate their transmissions were being detected. The system she had designed worked exactly as intended, disguising tactical communications within the constant stream of commercial satellite traffic crossing the region. To anyone monitoring signal traffic, the team's communications would appear as nothing more than background noise. 5 minutes to insertion, called the mission coordinator. Weather conditions optimal. No unexpected activity detected at the target facility. Captain Hammond stood at the back of the operations center, his arms crossed as he observed the proceedings with barely concealed skepticism. Though he had ceased his open objections to Sarah's communications system, his doubts remained visible in his rigid posture and occasional whispered consultations with his intelligence staff. "Team is green for insertion," came Commander Reeves, voice through the secure channel, steady and confident despite the risks he and his team were about to face. Communications status. All systems nominal, Commander. Sarah responded professionally. Your transmissions are completely masked within regional traffic. No detection signatures present. Copy that. Proceeding with insertion. The room fell into focused silence as the team began their infiltration of the coastal facility. On the main tactical display, small indicators showed their progress. 8 operators moving with precision toward their objective, navigating security measures that would have stopped any conventional force. 20 minutes into the operation, Sarah noticed something unusual in the signal patterns surrounding the target facility. A subtle shift in monitoring frequencies that wouldn't have been visible through standard observation methods. She adjusted her system parameters, focusing more closely on these anomalies. Something's changing in their electronic security profile, she reported to Ellis. They've activated additional monitoring frequencies that weren't active during our intelligence gathering phase. Ellis frowned, leaning closer to examine her display. Security upgrade or routine shift change? Neither, Sarah replied, her fingers moving rapidly across her console as she analyzed the pattern. The frequency allocation is too specific, focused on bands where military communications typically operate. This looks like a targeted monitoring protocol. Could they be expecting us? Ellis asked quietly, careful not to alarm the rest of the operations team. Sarah shook her head. If they knew about the operation, they'd have deployed additional security personnel. This feels more like a general precaution, maybe based on intelligence about potential Western operations in the region. She opened a direct channel to Commander Reeves. Sandstorm led. Be advised we're detecting enhanced signal monitoring around your position. No indication they've detected your presence, but they're actively scanning for conventional military communications. Copy that, Reeves responded, his voice low and measured. Assessment of our current communications security? Your transmissions remain secure, Sarah confirmed after running a thorough diagnostic. Our system operates outside their monitoring parameters. Recommend maintaining current approach but reducing transmission duration as a precaution. Understood. Implementing shortened transmission protocols. Captain Hammond moved closer to Sarah's station, his interest piqued by the development. You detected a security change that wasn't visible on our standard monitoring systems? Yes, sir, Sarah replied, not taking her eyes from her displays. Their new scanning pattern is disguised to appear as routine commercial satellite maintenance. It would look like background noise on conventional monitoring systems. Hammond studied her screens, his expression shifting from skepticism to reluctant interest. How did you identify it? Pattern recognition, sir. Commercial maintenance follows predictable sequences. This activity has military precision, too methodical for routine operations. Sarah highlighted specific signal patterns on her display. These frequency sweeps are systematic and focused on bands where our standard military communications would typically operate. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The captain's demeanor softened slightly. Good catch, Mitchell. Keep monitoring for any changes in their pattern. As the operation progressed, Reeves' team successfully infiltrated the facility's outer perimeter, moving toward the suspected location of the new weapons system. Their progress was methodical and precise, each movement calculated to avoid detection by the facility's extensive security measures. Team has reached checkpoint Alpha, Ellis reported, moving toward primary target area. Sarah maintained her vigilant monitoring of the communications environment, constantly adjusting her system to adapt to the changing electronic security landscape. The enemy's monitoring capabilities were sophisticated, more advanced than their intelligence had indicated. But her approach kept the team's communications invisible among the constant flow of commercial signals. 90 minutes into the operation, as the team approached the heart of the facility, Sarah detected a new anomaly, one that sent alarms ringing through her professional instincts. New signal pattern emerging, she reported immediately. They're implementing a broadband frequency sweep that includes commercial satellite bands. Ellis looked up sharply. That would include our masked transmissions. Potentially, Sarah confirmed, already implementing countermeasures. I'm adjusting our carrier frequencies and fragmentation patterns to stay ahead of their sweep. We need to notify the team immediately. She opened the secure channel to Reeves. Sandstorm led. Be advised the facility has initiated broadband frequency monitoring that could potentially detect our communications. I'm implementing countermeasures but recommend minimizing transmissions for the next 15 minutes while I secure our channels. Understood, Reeves replied. We've reached the target area and are gathering intelligence. We'll maintain communication silence except for emergency traffic. The operations center fell into tense quiet as Sarah worked to adapt their communications security. Her fingers flew across her console, implementing complex adjustments to the encryption algorithms she had designed. The enemy's monitoring systems were hunting for exactly the kind of transmissions she was trying to hide. A technological cat-and-mouse game with lives hanging in the balance. Captain Hammond moved to stand directly behind her, observing her work with growing respect. Their monitoring capabilities exceed our intelligence estimates, he noted quietly. Yes, sir, Sarah agreed, not slowing her work. They've implemented a detection system that combines commercial and military monitoring protocols. It's extremely sophisticated, designed to find communications hidden within normal traffic patterns. Exactly the approach we're using, Hammond said, the implications clear in his tone. Sarah nodded grimly. They're hunting for techniques similar to what I developed. That suggests they've encountered this method before, possibly from another Western intelligence operation. For 15 tense minutes, the team maintained communication silence while Sarah reconfigured their security protocols. She fragmented their transmissions further, spreading them across a wider range of commercial frequencies and reducing their signature to the absolute minimum necessary for coherent communication. New protocols implemented, she finally announced. Our transmissions are now dispersed across 23 different commercial carriers, with constantly rotating frequency assignments. Detection probability is near zero unless they know exactly what to look for. Ellis tested the new configuration, confirming that communications remained clear despite the enhanced security measures. Impressive adaptation, Mitchell. Ready to re-establish contact with the team. Sandstorm led, this is operations. Communication security has been enhanced. You are clear to resume normal transmission protocols, Sarah informed Reeves. Copy that, came the commander's response. Good timing. We've confirmed presence of the weapon system and are placing surveillance devices now. Estimated completion time 12 minutes. Then we begin extraction. Relief spread through the operations center. The mission's primary objective had been achieved despite the unexpected security challenges. Sarah maintained her vigilance, continuing to monitor for any signs that their communications had been detected. As the team began their extraction, moving carefully back through the facility's security layers, Sarah detected yet another shift in the electronic environment surrounding their position. This change was different, more focused and deliberate than the previous monitoring patterns. Something's wrong, she announced, her voice cutting through the relative calm that had settled over the operations center. They've adjusted their monitoring focus to a narrow band of frequencies, including several we're currently using. Ellis leaned in, studying her displays with growing concern. Coincidence or detection? Sarah's mind raced, analyzing the pattern against everything she knew about signal intelligence operations. This is too precise to be coincidence. I think they've detected fragments of our transmissions, not enough to decode our communications, but enough to know something's happening. She immediately opened the channel to Reeves. Sandstorm led. High probability that facility security has detected communication anomalies. No indication they've localized your position or decoded transmissions, but recommend immediate acceleration of extraction plan. Copy that, Reeves responded, his voice tight but controlled. Moving to extraction point Bravo. Be advised facility security posture is changing. Additional personnel deploying to perimeter positions. The atmosphere in the operations center transformed instantly, tension radiating through the room as everyone recognized the emerging crisis. The operation was transitioning from covert intelligence gathering to potential combat extraction, a scenario they had prepared for but hoped to avoid. Satellite imagery confirms increased security activity, reported the intelligence analyst monitoring external facility conditions. Multiple teams deploying from Central Security Station. Sarah worked feverishly to further secure their communications, implementing emergency protocols she had developed as contingency measures. Switching to burst transmission mode, she informed Reeves. Each transmission will last less than half a second, making triangulation nearly impossible. Understood, Reeves acknowledged. Team is moving to extraction point. 2 minutes to perimeter breach. Captain Hammond moved decisively to the mission coordinator's station. Alert the QRF. Have extraction assets move to secondary rendezvous coordinates. The Quick Reaction Force, a heavily armed team standing by to provide emergency extraction if the operation went critical, would now be activated. Sarah maintained absolute focus on her communications monitoring, watching for any indication that the facility's security forces were closing in on the team's position. Her system provided their only reliable connection to Reeves and his operators, as they navigated an increasingly dangerous extraction. Enemy communications indicate they're implementing a facility-wide search protocol, she reported, monitoring intercepted transmissions from the security forces. No indication they've identified your specific location, but they're establishing a cordon around the entire facility. Copy that, Reeves responded. We're approaching the eastern perimeter. Security presence is significant but distributed. Still have a viable extraction route. The next 10 minutes unfolded with excruciating tension. Reeves' team moved methodically toward their extraction point, while facility security forces conducted an expanding search pattern. Sarah's communication system provided their lifeline, directing them away from concentrations of enemy personnel and toward gaps in the security cordon. Security team approaching your position from the north, Sarah warned, tracking intercepted communications from the facility's forces. Recommend diverting through Sector 7 Echo. Moving now, Reeves confirmed. Visibility limited. Need continuous updates on security positions. Sarah found herself in the unexpected role of real-time tactical coordinator, translating intercepted enemy communications into actionable intelligence for the extraction team. The skills that had once been dismissed as irrelevant by her previous commanders were now keeping 8 operators alive as they navigated a hostile security environment. You're doing outstanding work, Mitchell, Ellis told her quietly, during a brief pause in communications. Most experienced signals officers couldn't maintain this level of coordination under pressure. Sarah nodded in acknowledgement but remained focused on her screens, unwilling to let her attention waver for even a moment. The team was approaching the most dangerous phase of their extraction, the actual breach of the facility's perimeter, where they would be most vulnerable to detection. Sandstorm led. Be advised we're detecting increased radio traffic at your planned exit point, she warned. Security teams appeared to be concentrating forces along the eastern perimeter. There was a moment of silence before Reeves responded. Understood. Our original exit is compromised. Analyzing alternatives. The operations center fell silent as everyone recognized the critical nature of the situation. The team was trapped inside a hostile facility with security forces closing in and their planned extraction route blocked. Lives now hung on finding an alternative escape route before they were discovered. Sarah's mind raced, analyzing the facility's layout against the security communications she was intercepting. A pattern emerged, one that might offer a solution. Commander, based on intercepted communications, security forces are focusing on obvious exit points, fence lines, gates, and vehicle checkpoints, she reported. But I'm not detecting any significant communications about waterside security. The drainage canal, Reeves responded immediately, understanding her implication. It runs along the western edge of the facility and discharges into the harbor. Satellite imagery confirms minimal security presence along the canal, the intelligence analyst reported, quickly bringing up thermal imaging of the area. No active patrols detected within 50 meters of the waterway. That's our exit, Reeves decided. Operations, can you confirm tide conditions for the drainage canal? Sarah was already pulling up environmental data. Current tide is outgoing, Commander. Canal should have approximately 1 meter of water depth, with moderate flow toward the harbor. Sufficient for movement but below detection thresholds for harbor security sensors. We're adjusting course now, Reeves confirmed. ETA to canal access point 4 minutes. Sarah continued monitoring enemy communications, providing real-time updates as security forces expanded their search. The team's diversion to the drainage canal had bought them precious time. The facility's security protocols focused on conventional exit points, leaving the waterway relatively unguarded. Team has reached the drainage access point, Reeves reported several tense minutes later. Proceeding along waterway toward harbor exit. Visibility limited but movement unimpeded. Relief spread through the operations center as satellite imagery confirmed the team's progress along the canal. They were moving steadily away from the main facility, using the waterway as both concealment and transportation toward their new extraction coordinates. QRF reports ready at secondary extraction point, the mission coordinator announced. Harbor patrol boat standing by to intercept team at canal outlet. Sarah maintained communications security throughout the extraction, continuously adapting their transmission protocols to prevent detection as the team moved from the facility toward open water. 27 minutes after diverting to the canal route, Reeves confirmed the news everyone had been waiting for. Sandstorm team secured aboard extraction vessel. All personnel accounted for. Mission objectives achieved. Proceeding to rendezvous point for return transport. Applause erupted throughout the operations center. Restrained but heartfelt recognition of a successful mission completed against substantial odds. Sarah released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The tension of the past hours finally easing as confirmation came that all team members were safe. Captain Hammond approached her station, his earlier skepticism completely replaced by professional respect. Specialist Mitchell, your work today was exceptional. Your communications security protocols and real-time intelligence coordination were instrumental to the team's successful extraction. Thank you, sir, Sarah replied, still monitoring her systems until the team reached complete safety. I was just doing my job. You were doing far more than that, Hammond corrected. You adapted to changing conditions under extreme pressure and identified an extraction route that wasn't in any of our contingency plans. That's not routine performance. That's excellence. As the immediate crisis passed and the team's extraction vessel moved into international waters, Sarah finally allowed herself to step away from her console. Her hands were shaking slightly, the delayed physical reaction to hours of intense concentration and pressure. Ellis handed her a cup of coffee. How does it feel to go from ammunition depot to saving a special operations team in less than 48 hours? Sarah smiled tiredly. Honestly, it feels like I'm finally where I'm supposed to be. I think Commander Reeves would agree with that assessment, Ellis replied. Once he's back, I expect there will be some permanent changes to your assignment status. The operations center transitioned to recovery mode, with analysts processing the intelligence gathered during the mission, while communication specialists maintained secure channels with the extraction team. Sarah remained at her station, ensuring communications security until the team reached the safety of their return transport. 4 hours later, as dawn broke over the operations center, Commander Reeves' voice came through on the secure channel for a final mission update. Sandstorm team aboard return transport. All personnel secure. Mission objectives achieved with complete intelligence package obtained. Extraction successful with 0 casualties. The formal confirmation brought another round of congratulations throughout the operations center. The mission had faced unexpected challenges and near disaster, yet succeeded through the combined efforts of the operators on the ground and the support team that had kept them connected, informed, and ultimately, alive. As the day shift arrived to relieve the night operations team, Captain Hammond approached Sarah once more. Specialist Mitchell, Commander Reeves has requested your presence at the debriefing when his team returns. Additionally, I've been instructed to inform you that your temporary assignment to this unit has been extended indefinitely, pending formal transfer approval. Sarah's exhaustion momentarily gave way to surprise. Extended assignment, sir? Commander's direct order. Hammond confirmed, a hint of a smile breaking through his typically stern demeanor. Apparently, he feels that your talents might be somewhat wasted counting ammunition boxes. Thank you for informing me, sir, Sarah replied professionally, though she couldn't entirely suppress her own smile. As she gathered her notes and prepared for the debriefing that would follow the team's return, Sarah reflected on the extraordinary turn her career had taken in less than 2 days. From the forgotten corner of the ammunition depot to the heart of a critical special operations mission, a transformation that validated her skills, her judgment, and most importantly, her persistent belief that she had more to offer than her previous assignments had allowed. The ammunition depot felt like a distant memory now, replaced by the knowledge that her work had directly contributed to saving 8 lives and securing intelligence vital to national security. Whatever challenges awaited in her new role, Sarah knew with absolute certainty that she had finally found her proper place, where her unique abilities could make a genuine difference when it mattered most. The briefing room buzzed with anticipation as Commander Reeves' team filed in, still wearing the marks of their mission, exhaustion etched into their faces alongside the quiet pride of accomplished professionals. Sarah sat near the back, a position that reflected her transitional status, no longer the outsider, not yet fully integrated into the unit's established hierarchy. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Operation Sandstorm 2 is officially classified as a complete success, announced Captain Reynolds, the base operations director who had arrived specifically for this debriefing. The intelligence gathered has been preliminarily assessed as significant to ongoing regional security efforts, with potential implications for multiple Allied operations. Commander Reeves, despite 36 hours without sleep, stood at the front of the room with the composed presence that defined his leadership style. Before we begin the technical debriefing, I want to acknowledge the extraordinary circumstances that contributed to this mission's success. Many of you are aware that our standard communications protocols were deemed inadequate less than 18 hours before deployment. His gaze found Sarah in the back of the room. Specialist Mitchell, who until yesterday was assigned to ammunition depot duty, identified critical vulnerabilities in our approach and developed an entirely new communications security system under extreme time constraints. That system not only maintained our operational security but directly contributed to our successful extraction when conventional methods would have failed. The room turned to look at Sarah, who maintained her professional composure despite the unexpected recognition. Several team members nodded in acknowledgement, the operators who had depended on her communications guidance during their extraction. For those who don't know the full context, Reeves continued, 3 months ago, during Operation Sandstorm 1, Mitchell independently identified a communications compromise that threatened my entire team. Working outside established protocols, she developed an emergency encryption method that provided us with critical intelligence, enabling us to avoid an ambush that would likely have resulted in significant casualties. Captain Hammond, seated near the front of the room, shifted uncomfortably as Reeves continued. Following that operation, instead of receiving recognition for her initiative, Mitchell was reassigned to ammunition depot duty, a position far below her qualifications and expertise. Yesterday, through coincidence or fate, I discovered her identity and immediately requested her transfer to our unit. The implications hung in the air, unspoken but clear to everyone present. A highly qualified specialist had been sidelined for reasons that suddenly seemed suspect, potentially costing the unit access to expertise that had proven critical to mission success. The technical debriefing will cover all operational aspects, Reeves concluded, but I want to establish a clear principle for this unit moving forward. We recognize and utilize talent regardless of rank, background, or previous assignments. Results and capabilities matter more than conformity to expectations. That approach saved lives yesterday, and it will continue to define our operational philosophy. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The debriefing proceeded with methodical precision, each team member reporting on their aspect of the operation. When Sarah's turn came, she delivered a concise analysis of the communications challenges they had faced and the adaptive measures implemented to overcome them. Her presentation was professional and detailed, focusing on technical aspects rather than personal contributions. As the formal debriefing concluded, Captain Reynolds addressed the room once more. Based on preliminary assessment and Commander Reeves' recommendation, I'm authorizing immediate formation of a dedicated communications security development unit under the Special Operations umbrella. This team will focus on creating adaptive, mission-specific communications protocols for high-risk operations in contested environments. He turned toward Sarah. Specialist Mitchell, effective immediately, you are appointed as lead technical advisor for this new unit, with promotion to senior grade pending administrative processing. Commander Reeves will oversee strategic integration while you manage technical development and implementation. The announcement sent ripples of surprise through the room. The military rarely moved with such speed on organizational changes, particularly those involving new unit formation and personnel advancement. The implicit message was clear. What had happened to Sarah following Operation Sandstorm? I had been recognized as a significant error, one that senior leadership was now correcting with unusual urgency. As personnel began filing out following the debriefing's conclusion, Captain Hammond approached Sarah. His earlier skepticism had been replaced by something more complex, professional respect tinged with personal discomfort. Specialist, Or should I say Senior Specialist Mitchell? He began. I owe you an apology. My resistance to your communications approach was based on adherence to established protocols rather than objective evaluation of your expertise. That was a professional failure on my part. Sarah measured her response carefully. Thank you, Captain. I understand the importance of established protocols. They exist for good reasons. I just believe they should be starting points rather than limitations, especially when circumstances change rapidly. Hammond nodded thoughtfully. A perspective I need to incorporate more effectively. The Intelligence Division would benefit from closer collaboration with your new unit as you develop these adaptive approaches. Perhaps we could establish regular coordination meetings? I'd welcome that, sir, Sarah replied, recognizing the gesture for what it was, a professional olive branch from someone who had initially dismissed her capabilities. As Hammond departed, Senior Chief Peterson approached with Commander Reeves. Mitchell, the commander, and I would like a word if you have a moment. They moved to a smaller conference room adjacent to the main briefing area. Once inside, Reeves closed the door, his expression shifting from the formal command presence he maintained in public to something more personal. I want you to understand exactly what happened after Operation Sandstorm Y. He began, without preamble. Your communications intervention saved my team 3 months ago. When we returned, I specifically requested information about the source of that intelligence and recommended commendation for whoever had provided it. What I didn't know, Peterson continued, was that my request was deliberately redirected. The after-action report was modified to minimize the communications compromise and your role in resolving it. Instead of receiving recognition, you were reassigned to a position where your expertise would effectively be neutralized. Sarah absorbed this information with growing disbelief. Why would anyone do that? It doesn't make sense from an operational perspective. It makes perfect sense if you're Lieutenant Colonel Victor Harmon, Reeves replied, his voice hardening. Harmon was the Communications Security Director who had personally certified our protocols as impenetrable before Sandstorm 1. Your improvised solution not only highlighted the vulnerability in his systems, but demonstrated that a junior specialist could develop a more effective approach than his entire department had produced in 2 years of development. Rather than acknowledge the failure and improve the systems, Peterson added, Harmon buried the incident and removed the person who exposed the vulnerability. Classic case of protecting reputation at the expense of operational effectiveness. How did you discover this? Sarah asked, still processing the implications. After finding you at the ammunition depot, I launched an investigation into your reassignment, Reeves explained. The paper trail was thin, but sufficient, once we knew what to look for. Harmon's digital signature appears on the transfer order, with a security classification that prevented you from challenging the assignment. The good news, Peterson continued with a grim smile, is that Lieutenant Colonel Harmon has been reassigned to evaluation of communications infrastructure in Antarctica. Apparently, Senior Command was displeased to discover that personal pride had been prioritized over operational security and personnel welfare. Sarah absorbed this information, connecting dots that finally explained her abrupt career derailment. So my reassignment wasn't about my performance or qualifications at all. It was about covering up a systemic vulnerability. Exactly, Reeves confirmed, which makes your actions even more admirable. Despite being sidelined for doing your job exceptionally well, when given the opportunity yesterday, you immediately stepped up and performed at the highest level without hesitation or resentment. What else would I have done? Sarah asked with genuine confusion. The mission and the team's safety were what mattered. Reeves smiled slightly. That attitude is precisely why I want you leading this new communications unit. You understand that systems and protocols exist to serve mission objectives, not the other way around. That perspective will save lives. There's one more thing you should know, Peterson added. The intelligence your team gathered yesterday has been preliminarily classified as critical to national security. The weapons system you documented represents a significant advancement in anti-naval capabilities, one that could threaten carrier groups throughout the region. Without your communications system keeping our team connected and secure, Reeves continued, we would never have acquired this intelligence. Conservative estimates suggest your work yesterday potentially saved hundreds, if not thousands of lives, that might have been lost if this system had been deployed without our knowledge. The scope of this impact left Sarah momentarily speechless. Her assignment to ammunition depot duty had seemed like the end of her meaningful contribution to national security. Now, less than 48 hours after being discovered counting bullets, Her work had directly contributed to intelligence that could protect entire naval battle groups. "I need you to understand something, Mitchell," Reeves said, his tone intensely serious. "What happened to you after Sandstorm? I was a failure of leadership. People placing personal advancement and reputation above mission effectiveness and personnel development. That approach costs lives and undermines everything we're trying to accomplish. The unit you're going to lead," Peterson continued, "represents a different philosophy, one that recognizes expertise regardless of rank or background, values innovative thinking over blind adherence to procedure, and celebrates initiative rather than punishing it. We want you to build this unit in that image," Reeves concluded. "Find other overlooked specialists. Develop adaptive systems that evolve faster than our adversaries can counter them, and create a culture where excellence is recognized, regardless of where it originates." Sarah straightened unconsciously, the full weight of this opportunity settling on her shoulders. "I won't let you down, sir." "I know you won't," Reeves replied with absolute confidence. "Your temporary office is being prepared now. You'll have authority to request personnel transfers, equipment allocations, and development resources as needed. Captain Reynolds has authorized priority status for your requisitions." As Sarah prepared to leave the conference room, mentally outlining the steps needed to establish the new unit, Reeves added one final thought. "Mitchell, there's a lesson here that extends beyond communications security or military operations. Excellence often emerges from unexpected sources, from people who have been overlooked, underestimated, or deliberately sidelined. The most valuable contributions frequently come from those who have experienced the frustration of being dismissed," Peterson added. "They understand both the technical challenges and the human factors that influence operational success." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Like knowing what it feels like to have critical information and not be heard. So you create systems that ensure everyone's input is properly evaluated regardless of its source." "Exactly," Reeves confirmed. "Build that understanding into every aspect of your unit's culture. It will make your systems more robust and your team more effective than any approach based on hierarchy or conformity." 3 months later, Sarah stood in the newly established Communications Security Development Center, surveying the operation she had built from the ground up. 28 specialists, many discovered and overlooked assignments similar to her own, worked at advanced stations developing and testing adaptive security protocols for high-risk operations. The center had already provided custom communications solutions for 11 critical missions, earning recognition from operational commanders who had previously viewed communications security as a necessary bureaucracy rather than a mission-critical advantage. More importantly, the unit had established a reputation for identifying and recruiting overlooked talent from throughout the military, specialists whose innovative approaches had been stifled in more traditional assignments. Senior Specialist Mitchell called a young communications technician who had been discovered maintaining outdated equipment at a remote outpost. The new adaptive frequency system just completed field testing. Results exceeded all performance metrics. Quote, "Excellent work, Cooper," Sarah replied, reviewing the data with approval. "Schedule a demonstration for next week's command briefing. I want operational teams to see these capabilities firsthand." As she moved through the center, Sarah noted with satisfaction how the culture she had established was taking root. Ideas were evaluated based on merit rather than source. Innovation was celebrated rather than constrained by procedure, and every team member understood that their contributions mattered regardless of rank or background. Commander Reeves entered the center, accompanied by several senior officers from Allied forces, visitors interested in implementing similar approaches within their own military structures. Sarah welcomed them professionally, leading the delegation on a tour of the facility she had created. "This center represents a fundamental shift in how we approach communications security," she explained as they observed teams developing next-generation protocols. "Rather than creating standardized systems that remain static until formally updated, we develop adaptive frameworks that evolve continuously based on operational feedback and emerging threats." "The results have been remarkable," Reeves added. "Mission success rates have increased significantly, and we've documented multiple instances where these adaptive approaches prevented compromise in environments where standard protocols would have failed." As the tour concluded, one of the visiting officers, a general with decades of experience in special operations, addressed Sarah directly. "Senior Specialist Mitchell, your center has accomplished in 3 months what traditional development approaches might have taken years to implement. What do you attribute this success to? Sarah considered the question carefully. Two key factors, sir. First, we prioritize operational effectiveness over procedural conformity, evaluating ideas based on results rather than adherence to established methods. Second, and perhaps more importantly, we've built a team that includes perspectives and talents that were previously underutilized. She gestured toward the specialists working throughout the center. Many of our most innovative developers were overlooked in previous assignments, their potential limited by conventional expectations or organizational structures that valued conformity over capability. By recognizing and empowering those individuals, we've created a unit that approaches challenges from multiple perspectives. The general nodded thoughtfully, finding excellence in unexpected places, a principle with applications far beyond military operations. Exactly, sir, Sarah agreed. The most valuable resources in any organization are often already present but underutilized. People with unique perspectives and capabilities that don't fit neatly into established categories or expectations. As the delegation departed, Reeves remained behind, observing the center with evident satisfaction. When I found you counting ammunition boxes 3 months ago, did you ever imagine you'd be briefing international delegations on communications security innovations? Sarah smiled slightly. Honestly, sir, at that point I was just hoping for an assignment that would let me use more than 10% of my training. And now you're changing how the entire special operations community approaches communications security, Reeves noted. Not bad for someone who was deemed suitable only for ammunition inventory. The ammunition depot was actually a valuable experience, Sarah reflected. It taught me what it feels like to have your capabilities dismissed, a perspective that shapes how I evaluate potential team members and their ideas. Sometimes the most important qualifications don't appear on any official record. Later that afternoon, Sarah received notification of a pending operation, one requiring specialized communication support for a team operating in an environment with sophisticated electronic warfare capabilities. As she assembled her development team to begin creating mission-specific protocols, she reflected on the extraordinary journey from forgotten specialist to unit commander. The ammunition depot seemed like a lifetime ago, a dark chapter that had ultimately led to an opportunity to create something meaningful. The lesson wasn't just about personal resilience or professional redemption. It was about recognizing that organizations succeed when they identify and empower talent regardless of where it emerges, when they value results over conformity and innovation over tradition. As her team gathered to tackle the new challenge, Sarah recognized in their faces the same determination that had driven her to send that unauthorized transmission during Operation Sandstorm 1, the commitment to doing what was necessary to protect those in harm's way, regardless of procedural obstacles or personal consequences. "All right, team," she began. "We have operators deploying into a contested environment with advanced signal monitoring capabilities. Our job is to keep them connected, secure, and alive. Standard protocols won't be sufficient. We need to create something new that anticipates and adapts to emerging threats." She looked around at the faces of specialists who, like herself, had once been overlooked or underestimated. Individuals whose unique talents had been dismissed until someone recognized their potential. Together, they had built something remarkable, a unit that valued innovation over tradition, effectiveness over procedure, and people over systems. "Let's get to work," Sarah concluded with quiet confidence. "Lives depend on what we create here today." The ammunition depot had taught her that true capability often hides in plain sight, overlooked by those too focused on traditional expectations to recognize exceptional talent in unexpected places. That lesson now formed the foundation of her leadership approach, identifying potential where others saw only limitations, and creating opportunities for excellence to emerge from the most unlikely sources. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.